All right, welcome back to the Flat Earth Podcast. I'm your host, Curious Jay. Alongside me, Dave from deep inside the rabbit hole. Back. What's up, Dave? Man, how was the week?
Week's been crazy. Flat, dealing with people that just don't see what's going on in this world. It drives me absolutely insane. You know, speaking
of dealing with people, I wanted to bring up on the show maybe a topic that we could talk about was how we talk to others about the flat Earth. And then I got to thinking the other night, I don't know if you heard it, but I think it was on last week's episode of Jaron's Raw Show. I just heard the beginning. I've got it bookmarked to go back and listen to the whole thing, but I was listening to the beginning and he had Brooks Agnew on. Are you familiar with Brooks?
Who's
Agnew?
Brooks Agnew? Is he a tennis player?
Yes, yes, that exactly. No, Brooks Agnew is actually, he's been around for several years and he is a huge proponent, very well spoken. I remember about 3 years ago listening to some of his interviews and I was just blown away. This was prior to hearing about flat Earth, but he is the proponent for hollow Earth. And he even put together like an expedition a while back. He wanted to sail to the North Pole to prove it once and for all, that sort of thing. And at the beginning of Jaron's Raw deal, he has him on. And this is what gave me the idea to talk about this topic, about things that trigger people or roadblocks in the conversation when you're talking to someone about flat Earth. Because what was so interesting, he had Brooks on and Brooks starts talking about, I don't know, I think he brought up, we have satellite imagery or something like that. And Jaron said, oh, Brooks, you believe in satellites? He said, yeah. And he said, you believe we landed on the moon? He said, of course we have. Something to the effect of like 6 other countries have done it, and
no, he said 4 countries have done it.
Wait, was that Jaron?
Jaron, what are you doing here?
Yep. Jeez.
Doing what I always do. I sit in the background of like every flat Earth show, and this way I can help eliminate disinfo and bring rational thought.
Wow, you
didn't know that?
Well, that's extremely interesting and creepy at the same time. It's.
I thought you guys knew I was always listening to your guys' show.
No, I knew you did that. You did the pop-in sometimes on Globebusters when you're on mute and thing. But I had no idea you just showed up like this. This is crazy.
He doesn't always pop in on Globebusters. I pop in about as much as he does.
Right.
That's about true. Yeah.
So on that note, welcome to the show, Jaron from Jaronism, everyone.
Hey, thank you. Glad to be here like every week. But
wow. Yeah,
usually I just don't interject.
Like I say, I'm stoked and I'm freaked out at the same time. So,
and the episode with Brooks was last night. Your mind's really leaving you.
Yeah, well, by the time this airs,
it'll be a week ago.
Oh, see,
there you go.
Shows you how much I know.
Right? That's what happens.
You're right. It actually was last week. Now I think
that's what happens when you sit in on the live broadcast, Jaron.
Oh yeah, I got to remember.
Right, quietly in the background like that. So
wait, before we get into talking to people that have no idea what's going on in the world and how we deal with it.
Tennis players and such.
Yeah.
Right.
How about that song last week from the Flat Earth Man? I mean, how does he get better every single time?
Yeah, he must have some good little formula because it's a great song, and you're right. It's hard to write songs like that, especially from scratch.
I have a theory on him.
Uh-oh, here it comes.
He's so good at putting these songs out that are so captivating. He's becoming the leader of the musical side of Flat Earth, right?
Sure.
He's a shill.
I think. Oh, I got you.
He's a
That's
shill.
where he's going.
There it is.
It's best to lead the opposition, right? Didn't we learn that from Goebbels?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
And think of it. He's so good that he can actually throw his voice into a completely different vernacular. Pretty good.
I mean, when you had him on Globebusters and he was that English guy, I'm like, what? Who is that?
Well, before the show started, we always get on about 5 or 10 minutes early, and we got on, and then Bob said, "Jaron, meet Flat Earth Man," and when he said hello, I was like laughing, thought that it was a joke.
Yeah. Okay. So when's Flat Earth Man coming on?
Right. I'm like, what is this? He's like, no, it's really him. And then he threw his voice, and I was like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah. Could you guys imagine like the three of us attempting to write a song in a British accent? That would be disastrous.
That'd be pretty bad. Missa could do it, but I don't think I can do it. I can do one in an Italian accent that's pretty bad, like a spicy meatball.
There you go.
I don't think it would go very far.
That was perfect.
That'd be about the extent of my language skills.
So when Jaron had the tennis star Brooks Agnew on the other night, he was, and I was so intrigued at first because when you said you were having him on or whatever, because I literally used to listen to him prior to Flat Earth. The biggest takeaway that I got out of Brooks back when I listened to him was not that the Earth was hollow, but he did have a lot of problems with NASA and his, the thing behind his whole hollow Earth theory was the fact that NASA's lying to us. And so it is kind of surprising that a guy that could believe that NASA lies to us about the imagery of the North Pole and the satellite imagery or whatever, but yet take it for face value that them, along with several other space agencies, landed on the moon.
Yeah, it started off interesting because I would say I'm a lot like you, that I'd heard him in the past talking about Hollow Earth, and I guess I just assumed his level of distrust in NASA was far more than it is, because it started off and I said, how did you get into the Hollow Earth? And he goes right into a satellite, took his picture, and I'm like, okay, already I'm a little bit weary. And then he goes into my friends at JPL. I don't know why I always say that. I'm actually going with John Bradshaw Layfield. Is really why I say JPL
yes,
all the time.
There
you go. But I meant JPL. He says, my friends at JPL, they thought this and this about this satellite. And then he really gets into, he believes a lot of what they have to say. So I kind of had to bring it back home and say, do you believe that, we went to the moon? And of course he said, well, yeah, of course. 4 nations have done it. They've got all their equipment there. We can put satellites in orbit of it. So I was like, oh, here we go. This is going to be a tough one.
And uphill.
Yeah. And I didn't know how quickly the interview was going to be, but I just knew at that point it was going to be quick.
Yeah.
Have you ever converted anybody, a steadfast moon believer, moon landing believer? Have you ever converted somebody away?
I can't say that I know
conversation?
That. Yeah. I can't say that, no.
I had a guy about 2.5 months ago at work who, I don't know why, but I just had he was temporary work. He was coming in and he was going to be gone in a week. So I guess I felt a little more at home just opening up to him one day. But I was sitting down and I was looking at somebody's, NASA hoax video on my phone. And I just decided to be like, check this out, and I showed him the mistake they made or whatever. And he was a firm NASA supporter and all that. And after about an hour and a half, I don't know that he's totally convinced that everything's fake, but yeah, he's definitely on board with they faked the moon landing now. So I got one feather in the cap there.
Well, it was really funny. He actually made several mistakes throughout the show. The first one was when I asked him, well, how do you believe we went to the moon? And he said, well, we have laser reflectors that are there today, and they still use them. And I said, okay, well, we sent lasers off the moon in 1962. And I started going to that story, and he said, no, I don't know who they are, but nobody sent lasers off the moon in 62. There wasn't even lasers. And I said, no, there was lasers, and NASA's the one who sent them off the moon. So he didn't have any clue about that. And then the funnier one, Dave would have loved this one. Later, he was talking about the North and South Pole and how we know it's a ball because of the weather there. And I told him, okay, well, hold on a second. I said, why is it that the North Pole is this empty pool? Because he was talking about it being a water, and that the South Pole is this continent. And he says, well, that's easy. It's because the sun is so much closer during the northern summer. And then I said, no, you're wrong. The sun is closer during the southern summer, to which he replied, oh, yeah, that's what I meant.
Ah.
So I said, if that's what you meant, then how is it that the North is water? And he just didn't have an answer for it. And I felt bad, too, because it wasn't supposed to be like a debate. So I didn't want to get into a confrontation with him over things, because I have no problem doing that. But I at least want to give him a heads up that that's what's going on. Because otherwise he does look kind of silly if he's saying things that aren't true. But anybody would, because he hasn't looked at that stuff in a while, or whatever reason. So I just wanted to give him a chance to maybe come back in the future and we can talk about some of the flat Earth. Because again, he then said one of the proofs that the Earth can't be flat is because if in the North Pole, the sun goes around you. And I said, Brooks, I believe that. I do believe that the sun goes around you. So I had to even tell him about how the flat Earth worked. You have to get a plate and move your finger around it. He didn't have any clue about that stuff, but yet he also starts off the interview by saying, no science is settled. But then halfway through the thing when we're talking about the flat Earth, he says it's settled science that the Earth's ball.
Sure.
So it didn't come across very good for him, but probably not very good for me either, considering I have him on the show and he's talking about satellites.
So tell me about Hollow Earth. At Hollow Earth, do people live on the outside of the Hollow Earth?
Yeah, we live on the outside, and unknown others.
And how do they explain no curvature?
They don't.
And gravity.
He tried to explain curvature by saying that he himself has shined a laser and at a half a mile away or something, it was higher than it should be. Then he describes in some, I don't know where he said, somewhere there's this 4-kilometer tube, and it's stretched off straight ahead, and he says, and at the end of it, it's 32 feet high, which is completely wrong. That's not even the equation. The equation would put it 10 feet high. So where he got 32 after, no, that's 10 feet at 4 miles. So at 4 kilometers, which is less,
2
that's
miles.
like, what, 2.8 miles? Yeah, then it should be 32 inches. Oh, see, it's 32 inches. He said 32 feet. Now I get it. But that just means he's just repeating because he got the inches and feet wrong. So he's never seen it. There's a big difference between if you see something 32 inches off the ground and if you see something 32 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that. You're right. That's what he meant. So he was just repeating something. He had never seen that.
And I wonder, do you know which tube he was talking about, Jared?
I'd have to go back and listen to the show again. He named it. He said somewhere there's this tube that's coming out of the ground, and he even says at the end of 4 kilometers, it's 32 feet in the sky. How do you explain that? And I kind of said, oh, I don't think that's right anyway, but now I get it. Now he meant 32 inches, which he needs to, he'll need to go back and listen to what he said again because he made it sound like it's some huge amount. How do you explain why it's 32 feet in the air? Well, you mean less than 3 feet in the air? You know, so
yeah, if it's 32 inches in the air, that could be a dip in the terrain.
Yeah, I don't know. And I did tell him because he said several things that I told him, hey, if that's true, show me. Take me and show me. He says that he has, get this, a device on Mars that has died. It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't drive around. But he said at any time he can go turn it on and look with the camera.
Wait, what?
Who?
Yep.
How does he have a device on Mars?
He's a PhD scientist that works for, I don't know who he works for.
Because tennis players make good money, Dave.
Right. They have cameras on Mars. All tennis players do.
Right.
How uninformed is David Weiss? That's the question.
Hello. Stay with us, Dave.
I'm with you.
Are we moving too fast for you here?
No, I'm good.
So wait.
No, these are
Brooks, wait, hold on. Back to, because I gotta reiterate Dave's question there. What the Brooks says he's got a device on Mars?
I don't know if he necessarily said he has access to. Well, he basically made it sound like he has access to go flip a switch on something, and then they can look at through the camera on this thing on Mars that doesn't drive around. But then he said it could look at stars, and then Miss and I were kind of asking, well, couldn't that just be a camera on Earth that's looking up at the sky? I don't know. And then the other thing he said he has access to was, let me think for a second. He had access to that, the camera on Mars, and there was another thing I told him, I need to go see that. You need to get me evidence of that.
Do you think that...
Oh, in Antarctica. Oh, that's what it was, Antarctica. He's also got a friend that he says is going down there in like a week or two. And I told him, well, can we send him with a camera that you put on a tripod and it turns around and watches the sun? And he said, yeah, I'll ask him. I'll have him do that. So we'll have to see. Now, here's the crazy thing is it's not, I would get into the conspiratorial kind of side of me and say, oh, well, could Brooks be a shill or this or that? I asked him on the show literally 3 hours before the show. So, and I don't even think he really knows who I am. So it's not like he knows that my show is next. I'm sure he knows I'm a flat earther. I'm sure he's never looked into flat earth. I'm sure he thinks it's crazy. So it's not, he wouldn't have had time to come up with some of the things he was saying to set it up. But I just told him, the things that you're saying, Brooks, I've heard before. And I said, but I've never seen any of them. That's my problem with the globe earth is that, of course, there's tons of quote unquote evidence and proof, but none of it can be found. And I said, this is the problem that I agree. Science never should be settled. It should never. That's the enemy of science. And I said, but these things that we're taught at the age of 6, then when I get to this age, I should be able to go find easily these proofs. And I said, but I just get people like you saying that these things are proven, but I can't find them. So I said, so you need to get me to wherever this location is. And I said, you don't have to take me. You can go bring a video camera and show me this thing that you flip a switch on that we can see stuff on Mars. Because I told him flat out, I don't think there's anything on Mars. I don't think Curiosity's on Mars. I think it's up at Devon Island. And so it was getting kind of contentious. Missa was sitting next to me kind of telling me, like, calm down, relax.
Take it back a little, Scotty.
Don't jump through the... Yeah. So I had to kind of lean it back and say, okay, tell me more about this hollow earth. And basically by the end of it, I realized that it's not even the hollow earth most people think. Because I even asked him, can you take a boat up to the hollow earth and then go inside the earth? And he kind of said, no, it's more like a something we wouldn't be able to go into. And it's just a difference in gravity, and kind of went through that whole thing. And it was just an unexpected, terrible interview.
So he says you can't go inside now?
No, that's the thing. He said the ancient kind of belief of it, or the one that originally people had, was that you could go inside.
Right.
But then the reason that they think that there's a hollow earth is because of some seismic reverberations of these, earthquakes happen and they bounce back. And he even admitted, because I told him, well, when do they bounce back? How deep? And he said like 700 or 800 miles. And I'm like, well, it should, if it's going through the planet, shouldn't it be 8,000 miles to the other side? So he kind of seemed confused about it too, but basically said because of these bounce backs, they believe they found an ocean inside the earth, about 800 miles deep, that there's an ocean. And then after that, there's another liquid core of some type. So it just got to the point where I was like, oh, I got to get this guy off the phone.
Gaddafi found an ocean of water under the desert, right? You've seen the Great Man-Made River, correct?
Yes.
So Gaddafi found this ocean of water, and he was piping it all across Africa. That's a whole nother story, a whole nother show. But that's what people call primary water. Do you know who Deborah Tavares is? She's an amazing researcher. She does really good stuff about what's going on with silent weapons for silent wars, basically the frequency war, vaccine. She gets into everything. But she
plays tennis?
Yes.
Yeah, she's a tennis player, correct. She plays with Agnew or whatever.
Mixed partners.
But she talks about primary water. She has a great website called primarywater.org because we're taught that water is, the evaporation, condensation, and rain. That's our primary cycle. That's secondary water. And primary water comes from inside the ball earth. And that's okay, but it does that to me, that's a limited supply of water. The flat earth makes perfect sense, because if there's waters above, that explains everything. The air pressure where we are, I believe, is holding the oceans down. If we lowered the air pressure, the waters would rise because they would come in around from above. That's what I'm thinking. I could be totally wrong. People could be laughing at me, but it makes a lot of sense in my book.
I know, I saw something today that makes. So tell me if this is possible, Dave. If I take a glass of water and I fill it up halfway, and then I turn it upside down on a piece of cardboard, can I then remove that piece of cardboard and keep that half glass of water upside down?
Is it half empty or is it half full?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
You jumped all over his joke. Come on.
Whoops.
What do you mean take it off? Is it on the table?
No. So okay, I'm just holding a half glass of water with my hand.
Oh, no,
and then
take the cardboard off. Let go of the cardboard, and will it stay?
No. That I know would happen.
Yeah.
But if I turn the cup upside down on the cardboard, now I'm holding the cardboard with the cup on top of it with the half glass of water. Can I remove the cardboard and the half glass of water stays suspended?
No.
No.
All right, I saw it today, so I've got to figure out if it's true. It didn't look like one of those channels that's trying to, because it was like 10.
What do you mean? The
cool
glass
tricks
is
with water.
floating in the air?
No, he's holding the glass. How hard
He's
is
holding
this?
the glass upside down.
Oh, so he pulls and the water stays in the glass.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
I didn't think so either. But I'll try it, because this is what I saw. I don't remember what the channel was.
The science is closed on this one. No.
I mean,
I'm going to go do it after the show, and I'm going to tell you.
yeah, there's no. Yeah, well, okay. Grab a mop while you're at it. One of the reasons it was so easy for me to get further and further into the flat Earth research was because a couple of things that I did think were good points for the hollow Earth still were, fresh in my mind, and that was. Number one was the fact that, on the map, the satellite imagery of the North Pole, et cetera, just looks so phony. It looks patched together on Google Earth, and lots of flat Earth people have said that. So I'd heard that through Hollow Earth, and I thought, yeah, it makes a good point. But another one that could go to either either the flat Earth or the Hollow Earth, and that was, have you heard him mention this before, Jaron? The Ross gull. The bird. There's a bird called the Jim Ross gull. Not Jim Ross, but the Ross gull. Ross's gull. It's like a seagull, and it lives up in the north. And scientists discovered that during the wintertime, it flies north for the winter.
Oh, I have heard that.
Yeah. And I think Canadian geese may even do the same thing. And they've tried with tagging them and such, but they never can get a good read on where exactly are they going? Because we know that birds will fly to a warmer area during the winter. And so where are these guys going?
Yeah, and I know I've heard a few, or read a few times in those old sailor logs that they would say that the currents weren't acting at all like they were supposed to in the north, that they were thinking that there must be some piece of land up further north than they'd ever thought, which is interesting. Again, there's not supposed to be more land up there.
Right.
And Brooks Agnew actually described kind of what you're talking about, although he described it with some sort of eel. These eels that they keep finding every year that they think are coming from like another ocean, because every time they find them, it's a new species. They're finding like 1,500 species of these eels every year that have never been seen before, as if they're coming from somewhere else.
They're coming from up north,
I don't know.
yeah. Which, again...
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah, and I thought...
They're coming from the outer oceans.
Yeah, I thought back in the, when I was first hearing the Hollow Earth stuff and a couple interviews with Brooks and others, with that, I thought that was extremely interesting. But then when I got into Flat Earth and studied the Flat Earth and realized that whatever it is at the North Pole, whatever's at the center, they're not showing us. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the people in the Flat Earth world that believe that there's the magnetic mountain, there's islands, there's all that stuff. Point being, we don't know what's up there, but birds are heading north for the winter. That's strange.
Well, what I basically got out of his whole thing is that he believes that all planets are hollow. That, and then I even brought up to him, I said, well, I've heard before that they've done studies about the moon, and the moon can't possibly be, even in our current accepted belief of the heliocentric model, that the moon is not possible to be a solid body, that it has to be hollow, because when they just do the mathematics itself, it must weigh much less than you would think if it's a solid piece of rock. And he said, yeah, no, totally true. The moon is hollow. So that's kind of his overall belief, but he does believe in planetary spheres and, that whole thing. So it was a funny conversation, and I do want to have him back, but as more of a debate situation.
Yeah, maybe lay that out first. So, you know what I mean?
Right,
so
exactly.
It's not so awkward.
Just, hey, you want to come on my show so I can bash you? Yeah.
So how often do either of you guys approach people that have no idea what's going on in the world, that watch the news, that just think all is well, and North Korea is possibly going to nuke us? I mean, do you actively talk to people outside of our circles?
Outside the Flat Earth world. I think I just mentioned last week on the episode we recorded before, Dave, I just recently, maybe 5-6 days ago, for the first time in a while, brought it up to someone new who's a friend of mine who, after talking to him for a while, having several talks and whatever, I noticed that he was extremely open-minded to the fact that the government lies to us. He was super curious and into the UFO thing and was like, yeah, they're full of crap. They're not telling us everything and blah, blah, blah. And so I kind of took that as I thought about it. I didn't speak up right away, but eventually, a day or two later, I was like, if you want to know what I think, I'll tell you, but I can't tell you when other people are around. And he looked at, he looked at me kind of like raised the eyebrow thing, like, what? And eventually we sat down and I said, yeah, so you're going to think what I'm about to say is extremely nuts. But trust me, it's not. I'm not just saying it because I read it on the internet or I just heard it. It only comes after 18 to 20 months of research into this. And I'm telling you right now that I believe space is completely fake. And he goes, what? And I said, space is not what we're told. We're not flying up there and whatever. And his mind was blown. But I didn't even go into Flat Earth. I just wanted to try for the first time ever, like someone who had never heard of Flat Earth, let me just hit them with NASA, because I feel like there's such a great case to be made, as Jaron and you and so many others have done. Dude, it's so easy to just crucify them with their own material.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. They just recently I sent an email to NASA and I I just sent it as if I was somebody upset at the fact there was no 24/7 view of the Earth from space. And the person responds to me from NASA with 2 links, both of them to the Ustream feeds on NASA's ISS feed.
I hate that.
Yeah, so I responded back and said, no, guys, I said 24/7. I said, that cuts out every 30 minutes. And then they responded again and said, oh, well, there's certain areas of the Earth where we don't get satellite coverage. And I said, that's not true. I said, because I've seen every area of the Earth be covered at some point or another. you're basically saying, because they say they're on the dark side of the earth. If that was true, well, you're not always over the same parts of the earth at the dark time. Sometimes it's light. And then they responded back again and said, oh, I found the 24/7 feed. Here it is. And it was the same link they'd sent me the first time to the HD feed. I just said, you guys are out of your minds.
Can you hear me? Because I'm on the dark side of the earth right now.
I cannot.
Oh.
You have a blue screen is all I see here.
Nice.
Wow. But to answer your question, Dave, I don't do it often. I don't know about Jaron, you guys, I don't do it often. Because, and the reason why is I'm no longer like scared to bring the topic up. I'm not scared of their reaction or whatever. It's just that it takes so much time. It's a time consuming topic.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
If you really want to get it out there.
To be honest, I have not done it at all, really, because I've done it with my sister. I've done it with a couple friends. But if you're talking about really going out and just taking somebody off the streets, no way, because I've never changed somebody's mind either. And most people are so stuck in their beliefs. I mean, I remember when my friend told me 9/11 was an inside job, and I told him to shut up because it just didn't matter what evidence he would have given me at that moment. Doesn't matter what he said. But I still would have walked away and said, shut up.
Yeah, he planted a seed, though, and now you know.
Absolutely.
So you can credit him.
Yeah.
That's what I try and do with all my videos. My videos are all meant to be getting somebody to just think about something to the point where they look into it. That's why I love the billboards that you've done. That's why I don't mind any of the media. That even if it's bad media, in my life, I was never given. Absolutely, I was never given that opportunity to even question where I lived, and it wasn't until I did question it that I started to realize that we can be blocked by something as simple as me telling my wife, how do planes go around it? I said, shut up. That's stupid. Earth can't be flat. I've been in a plane. You've been in a plane. We've gone around the earth. End of story. And then when I saw that azimuthal map, for the first time, I realized, wow, because I had not even thought of something like this existing, I called my wife stupid. And that's what really opened my eyes to the fact that we can be fooled so easily and corralled into one area of thought that now I'm just open to everything. And now I can hear anybody say anything.
Those cards I made, Google Flat Earth Clues, I've been passing them out to people, and people have been putting them everywhere. I've been putting them everywhere. And a couple from Texas, fans of the show, friends, came to New York and went out to dinner with Paige and I. So we're out at my favorite local restaurant, and we're hanging out, and we're talking about different stuff, and we're talking about different ways to wake people up. And I said, I take these cards, and I pulled a card out of my pocket. I said, I always put one in the check. I leave one, in a painting, just in Starbucks, and I put it on the table. The waiter was walking by, saw the card in the corner of his eye, stopped, doubled back, and he goes, "You're the one putting those cards out." He goes, "I found one 2 weeks ago, and I haven't slept. I've been watching videos every night." So it does work. It does work. And I've been posting, NASA videos and stuff on my Facebook and stuff. And, my family, I would say not too long ago, I don't know if they know that I'm a flat earther. I think my sister does at this point, but all of the kids in my family they're getting it. My kids are flat. They know the earth is flat, but they just don't want to talk about it. But they're addressing it, and now they're talking to their parents. So like my brother-in-law, he's I texted him today. I said, "Hey, what's the name of that cooler bag you have?" This guy I needed the name of a bag, and he replied back, it's the Yeti, but it only works on a ball Earth. So I know he's thinking about it. He's thinking, and every time he texts me, it's always something, about flat Earth or ball Earth. And so I know he's looking. So soon.
I think the cards are a great idea. I mean, that's because if you're talking about going and actually talking to somebody, it's kind of like what Jay said. There's too much to be said in one conversation. You couldn't possibly get across what you want to get across. But those cards, they just make somebody upset enough to go home, and then they can start their own search. And that's all I want from people, is to just look into it. If you want to come to the conclusion after doing the research that we're on a ball, that's on you.
And I like Flat Earth Clues. It is the video that we all watch. So many of us woke up to Flat Earth Clues when there was very little content out there. And for somebody, for the first time looking into Flat Earth, Mark just talks very smoothly. He brings you through step by step, and he puts enough seeds inside that there's no way that they're not going to sprout.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Dave. Like if I went back right now and watched the clues, I bet you I could find a lot of things that I would nitpick and say, well, there's no proof of this. We're not sure about that. But as far as a presentation goes and getting your attention type of thing, I don't know too many people who started the clues and didn't finish it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like it's so well put together, tells such a great little story that, yeah, even over the years, if we can strike certain things out of there.
Well, I just mentioned this on that Friday night show on Iron Realm Media the other night, and I said I think that we should come up with. And it sucks because I know communities don't, we don't like to get together as a community and do things. But I said, but if we got a half-hour video, and it doesn't need to be on any of our channels, it's something you could even go to Fiverr and get somebody to do the audio over the the voice, right? For $5 or $10, get them to do that, and then have it be on a channel separate from anybody's channel, and on a video that we just put the video up on that channel and send everybody there. So it's not connected to different people. Nobody can say, well, I don't like that. It's on Jaren's channel. It's on, whoever's channel. It's just a channel that we put, like, I don't know, call it Flat Earth Facts, something like that.
Yeah, like the flag, the tent poles, the things that we do agree on, I guess.
Right. And then from there, then at least, and we'd have to make sure we got good keywords. I do agree with Dave that the best one we have so far is definitely Flat Earth Clues, without a doubt. Yeah,
I think that's a great idea, Jaren. Also, going back to what you said about emailing NASA, I think a great idea would be maybe we could set up a very small GoFundMe, raise a couple bucks, and the three of us should go down to Houston and do one of those NASA tours, and record the three of us hitting them with questions during the tour.
Or even to go down and see a launch. I mean, I would love to see these so-called launches.
I would just love for us to ask some poor tour guide who knows zero. Just hit them with all these questions of, why is there not a 20? And we could even act like we're not together. And that one person's causing the other person to ask questions. Yeah, that makes me think, why don't you guys have a, that would be insanely, I'm kidding, of course, about the GoFundMe thing.
Yes.
But wouldn't that be a great thing for someone to sit around, sit off to the side and record?
Yep, we could ask them all about gold foil and how we can protect ourselves from, 1,000-degree heat by just wrapping ourselves in gold foil. Be good.
Yeah, who was it, Dave, that mentioned the lunar module? I thought that was such a great question. He asked.
I think it was the Potter's Clay. If you believe the lunar module landed on the moon, then you'd be comfortable using it as a submarine.
Who said that the other day? Was it you said that to me?
I think that was I got it from
Dave
somebody else. I think I got it from
Potter's Clay. Maybe
I think I got it from
Potter's Clay. I thought it was brilliant.
I mean, I did too. I was like,
I told Miss, would you take that thing in the ocean? Protect yourself. She's like, what are you talking about? It looks like it's made of paper.
That's what you put a bunch of puppies in and toss it in the ocean.
She didn't say that. She's foul-mouthed and she may be heathen, but she's not throwing puppies in the ocean.
Another thing I wanted to bring up with Jaren on here, because Jaren and I like to talk analogies when it comes to.
I like to steal analogies. Yes.
Yeah, that was a nice way of me saying Jaren likes to steal my analogies. But I thought of a good one when I was talking to someone about flat Earth about a month ago, and I've been meaning to bring this up, but I disappeared. I MK Ultra for a little while, and haven't gotten the chance to. But check this out. So, you know how we're always when a science, science article or a quick thing on the news, how they always bring up the same points that prove the globe, right? The, what is it? The Aristosthenes, what do they say? The shadow on the moon, and certain
the same thing.
Coriolis effects and this sort of thing. Yeah. Okay. So, but one of the things that we always come back with is like, well, yeah, that does describe a globe, but it's not proof of a globe, right? And I just thought of the greatest analogy as I was talking to this person the other day, and I'm like, dude, I was like, okay, so that's like me going to the doctor and saying I have a headache and them diagnosing me immediately and saying, well, that's proof of the flu. I mean, it's a symptom of the flu, but you need further information. You have to go through you got to keep checking the boxes and eventually running a test to see if I have the flu. I mean, if I sneeze, is that proof of a flu? No, it could be a common cold. It could be allergies. It could be anything. And all of these so-called proofs that they bring out for the globe are in fact, well, yes, they're symptoms of that, but it doesn't mean that that's what you have. And that's the closest thing I could come up with to explain to the person like what I mean by it's not proof. It's just an example of what would work on a globe was to say, dude, if you go to the doctor and you have a sneeze, they don't just say, oh, well, that's proof of a flu.
And Brooks Agnew,
because it could be so many other things.
Brooks Agnew last night started off by saying, well, one of the proofs that the Earth's a ball is that the ISS flies around it. And I said, okay. I said, no, it doesn't fly around. I said, have you ever turned that into a Cartesian dipolar? It just flies in a circle above the Earth. And he's like, oh, well, no, I haven't done that. He's like, but you can see from video footage that it's the curve of the Earth. And I'm like, Brooks, if you're looking at a circle of view, then you're seeing the circle of your view. I said, why do people jump to that conclusion that it's a ball? And this is something that they force down everybody's throat, right? They just force you to believe that this curve that you're seeing, this edge, is the edge of a ball. But I told him, you can never get on the side of the ball. I had a pilot the other day tell me that the Earth is round because he flies above it. And I said, have you ever flown underneath it? Have you ever flown on the side of it? Well, then what you're saying makes no sense. That's something people forget. You're just getting above the Earth. You will never see in their model, right? You'll never see the side of the ball Earth. You'll never see underneath the ball Earth because all you can do is stay right on top of it. So it's not proof.
Yeah. And if Brooks is going to bring up something from the ISS, I guess my response to Brooks would be, well, Brooks, you've already, by your own admission, have thrown out satellite imagery because...
Well, he says that there is no satellite imagery of the North or South Pole. So...
Well, no, but they show us imagery.
He says no.
And that's my point.
I thought
what's
so too.
Google Earth?
He says that's all CGI.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Is like he can admit that there's CGI involved with the North Pole.
Right.
Because he's a hollow Earth proponent.
Correct.
But don't use the ISS and imagery from NASA to come back and prove the globe.
Right. It's absolutely like when we had Robert Sungenis on Globebusters. This is 3 years ago now, and he's a believer in the geocentric Earth. He's the writer of the movie The Principal. And when we talked to him about it, he got to the point where he was just picking and choosing where he wanted to say NASA is correct and then where he wanted to say they lie about it. But it was like, you can't use them as the end all be all. The reason like stars are so far away, he says, well, NASA's proved it. But other things that NASA says, like that we're spinning, he just dismisses. So you can't do that.
Following announcement has been paid for by
The Flat Earth Podcast.
You want to leave a digital voicemail for us? Head over to theflatearthpodcast.com and click on the blue link that reads, got a question? Send us a message.
You can do it from your iPhone or from your computer. First time you do it on your cellular phone, you'll have to download a little app. But after that, you can leave us all kinds of messages. If you want to be anonymous, you can make up a name, make up an email address. We don't care. We just want to hear what you have to say.
We'll do our best to play or answer these questions and comments on future episodes right here on the Flat Earth Podcast. Download the SpeakPipe app and check us out at theflatearthpodcast.com.
The Flat Earth Podcast.
If you're watching this audio on YouTube right now and you're not familiar with the world of podcasting, there's a far better way to listen to the Flat Earth Podcast each and every week.
Think of it like your TiVo or your DVR is to your television. You subscribe to whatever show that you like. Whenever a new episode comes out, it records it, downloads it, and notifies you that there's a new episode for easy listening anywhere. Another great feature on most podcast players is you could speed up if you want to hear stuff even faster, or more importantly, it has a jump back and jump forward 30 seconds so you could skip annoying announcements like this.
We're on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and so many more. If we're not on your favorite podcast app, send us a message and let us know to make sure we will be.
The Flat Earth Podcast.
Try this new approach with this friend. By just attacking NASA first, I want to destroy their credibility, which, shouldn't be too tough, first, and get that just totally embedded in his brain. And then when he really gets it, that NASA is totally full of it, and they've lied about not just the moon landing, but all of this, he's going to start asking the next questions.
Well, here's the most recent email that I sent back and forth to NASA. The last one said, after they sent me the wrong link again, I responded, said, can you move this up the ladder? And I said, because here's the deal. I said, I've got people in my life that are telling me that the Earth is flat. And I said, so I went to disprove them, and I realized that the only reason anybody in this world would ever say that the Earth is flat is because of NASA. I said, you are responsible for people thinking the Earth is flat because, number one, there's no video camera footage of a 24-hour sun in the south. Number two, you don't even have a 24/7 view of the Earth from space. And I said, so you've handicapped me trying to tell people that the Earth isn't flat because you have made it possible for people to question it. So I said, so move this up the ladder and tell me how I convince people, considering you've made $52 million a day and you can't even do things that will prove where we live. So that's my most read. Now, they won't respond to that one, just like the NSF eventually stopped responding to me too. But I think putting those things out there will kind of start to wake them up to what's going on. I mean, really, if you think about it, NASA is, let's say that the Earth's a ball. Let's pretend, we're going to pretend right now, pretend land, the Earth's a ball, and people are starting to say that the Earth is flat. The only reason anybody would ever say that is because of NASA. Right. NASA is the one responsible for showing the ball, for proving the ball, for making it a no questions asked kind of thing, and they've clearly not done that.
Yeah.
It's clearly their fault.
That's right.
And they really tipped their hand. You know, we talked about this the other day where they were doing a question and answer from little kids, you know, where do we, you know, what's your favorite thing? And when they asked what was your favorite thing up there, it's, oh, I love looking down and seeing the Earth's curvature.
Yeah, the curve of the Earth.
He does the curve of the Earth, and he does his hand motion showing the curve. It's the brainwashing of adults and children is crazy. You know, growing up, Wonderful World at Disney, Sunday nights, Werner von Braun was on with him, you know, talking about rockets and stuff. They had astronauts on Sesame Street. I mean, they have captured children. Now they've captured several generations of people, and the brainwashing is beyond what a non-brainwashed person can even conceive of.
Yeah, I have a question for both of you to see what you think on this. Do you guys think in the next, 5-10 years, not that they're really going to go to the moon, obviously, but do you think they're going to actually try to redo a moon mission? Like to make up for the problems in the old way?
Well, I think that, and I don't know if it's going to be the Elon Musk trip, the 2 people that he's supposed to send around the moon this year. I'm not sure if it'll be that trip or what trip soon, but people will die in space. That'll be the story. Mm-hmm. And then what they'll say is, you know what, this is far too dangerous to send anybody to space anymore, so we're going to from now on do robotic missions. And they can fake robotic missions. Yeah. They can send us pictures from Mars and say this robot is exploring Mars. They can send a robot picture from Saturn, whatever. So that's what I think they're going to do. Humans will never go to space because they can't. So they have to they went along this story for a while. The only way to get rid of it without admitting NASA didn't go to the moon, without admitting all that, is to make it so dangerous that we don't want to send anybody there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about all this nonsense sending some people to Mars?
I think
and colonizing Mars.
I think they're way more likely to do that than they are the moon. Just to be honest, because
Jaron, we spoke about it on the last show. Are you familiar with Werner von Braun's book from 1952? Yeah, the Mars Project with the guy that named Elon. So, what is it? What are they doing? Are they acting out a prophecy?
Were you familiar with that, Jaron? The Elon reference in that book?
Yeah, I didn't believe it at first when I heard it. I was like, that can't be true. And I went and looked it up, and it's pretty close to what people say. I mean, it's the group of elders all together. Then there's the head of the group, and he's called the Elon. So it's kind of like the president of the United States. Yeah. The person is the Elon.
Who's running
it's not his name.
It's the Elon.
But it is. It's the Elon. Yes. No, and that's that. I was like, man, what are they doing as far as that goes? Well, I've always said that they have no creativity, and I think they steal from books, and we've seen it with the Titanic, which years before that, the book The Titan came out. Same exact story, cross the Atlantic, same thing, women and children, identical. And then you've got Jules Verne and the trip to the moon. It took off from Florida. It went with 3 guys. It went in this capsule. The whole thing. I mean. Columbia was the name of it, or the Columbian.
Are they using this to use our emotions and our creativity to create the reality that they want?
I think that they can't come up with the story on their own. Like they don't know how to come up with a lie about going to the moon. So they steal a good author, like Jules Verne. They just took his work and said, okay, well, he must have done some research into this. I mean, that's what it seems like. It certainly seems like they just steal
that those stories are just the initial seeds, so we'll buy the story when they put it out. Like if they came out with Satellites and that book was never written about satellites, people would be like, "What? You know, what are you talking about? I don't understand." But they come out with it like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." You know, like
to kind of intentionally foreshadow.
If NASA, sends some people to Mars, next year, and they say, "Hey, the way we're going to live there is they can grow potatoes," people will be like, "Yeah, that makes sense because we saw it in a movie."
Oh. Matt Damon did it.
Matt Damon did it.
It has to work.
You know what? You might be right, too, because I know Arthur C. Clarke was a Freemason. I'm not sure about Jules Verne, but definitely the guy who wrote the book The Titan, which was later changed to the real story of the Titanic. But he was also in that group and was like into the Bohemian Grove and all that kind of lifestyle. So interesting that, maybe they are putting that stuff out there first, and then they can tell the story after, and people are like, "Oh,
I'm kind of torn,
right.
like between the two things, like Dave just said, the really deceptive foreshadowing, planting the seed, pre-planned deal, or the Jaren's. I like Jaren's idea with they just don't have the creativity to come up with anything. But I'll tell you what, it's not. It's not coincidence.
No, I don't think so either.
I mean,
You know
hoping that there's a good story there that they can play off of. That's a little far of a stretch for me. I really think that it is part of the programming. You know, they when something happens in your life, like you see, let's say you're sitting in a room and there's a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old next to you or whatever, you very young child, and a pencil falls off the counter across the room. And both see it as it falls. Now you're going to have gravity in your head, Jaren. You can be like, okay, the cat ran by. There was the it's at an angle. There's a little draft over there. Maybe a mouse or whatever. You're going to have 50 things. The kid doesn't really have any real world experience. Doesn't know what it was. But when you put these ideas, these things through in a commercial in the back in the back scene of a movie or something, these things are in your subconscious, and you can pick them to decipher what is going on in reality, even though you don't know where that came from. Like you'll pick, satellites make sense, and you might not even remember that Jules Verne book. But the concept is already ingrained in your mind. I don't know if I said that all right, but I think that made sense.
No, I mean, that was definitely evident when it comes to satellites and the moon landing. I think it was maybe Jaren, I think ODD also did some great videos where they, just listed and showed all of the sci-fi stuff that was coming out, between the 20s and
right.
And like the moon landing time, where, I totally.
That is getting people ready to believe something.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like if you look at the way we were all raised and the way, I know Dave's older, but if you look at when we grew up, well, I mean,
right.
We just assumed that the people had been to the moon. So whether or not we can actually go back now and realize what we would have thought otherwise, which we can't, but it's like the fact that you looked up at the moon and said, oh, men have been there. Men can live on a ball. Men can stand on a ball upside down or, sideways. And it just gets synced into your psyche to where that is a possibility. I think that the moon landings help them even indoctrinate us more that we live on a ball.
It's not a place you can go. Let's just keep that clear. Hey, Jaren, I heard you say the other day that you think that the moon, this was from not that old of an interview, the sun could be, how many miles did you say? 60 or 60 miles up or 160 miles up? It was something. Go ahead. Because you said like when we send a balloon up 120,000 feet, how many miles is that?
Well, it's like 25.
Yeah, 25. So you're saying the sun is maybe 2 or 3 times that height?
Yeah, that's what it appears.
It appears to me from the balloon height that the sun is not twice the height of the balloon. It's less than twice the height. It's always it almost looks at the level of the balloon. I mean, slightly higher, maybe 1.5 times as high as the balloon. Do you not see that?
Yeah, and I mean, this is the kind of thing that I wish I had, funds to do things, because like Dwayne Kellum sends up these balloons, right? And he just sent one up during the day and pointed the camera straight up at the sun. But the problem was he didn't do it with a solar filter, so as it went up, you just get the glare, the big glare, right? But if you were able to send up a camera with a solar filter on it, pointed straight up at the sun, and you saw it reduce in size as you went up, that's how you could prove that it was close. Because at 93 million miles, doesn't matter how high up your balloon goes, it's not going to change the size of the disk itself. So, I mean, there's ways to prove that, but I would agree with you. I mean, when the balloon goes up,
so you're
it looks
saying
like
it would get smaller
as you went up,
closer to the sun would get smaller.
Sorry, no, it would get bigger.
Okay,
I'm saying, right? You're looking at that disk. So if it changes size as you're going up, then clearly it's a close thing, right?
Right.
Yeah, and it's something I think we can prove. And yeah, you're totally right. There's no point that ever looks like the sun is 93 million miles away. It looks like it's right on top of the Earth.
And the other thing is, as we've talked about many times, the apparent position of the sun. I don't think that when we look up at the sun that we're seeing it at 120,000 feet. I think we're seeing it much closer.
Absolutely.
It's not as high. I mean, it to me, it looks like it's probably 50,000
this is the whole thing with people,
feet, maybe.
And that's why people who say they see clouds behind the sun I laugh at them, but I need to take a step back sometimes and say, well, yeah, you can see clouds behind the sun if you're talking about where the sun is rendering for you. That doesn't mean there's clouds behind the sun. We know that when the balloon gets up above the clouds, that the sun is always above the clouds. So therefore, there's never clouds behind the sun. However, from your vantage point, you're looking off towards the horizon. The sun is going to set, and you might look and you might see clouds behind the sun. But you just need to recognize what you're seeing. It doesn't mean you're seeing a simulation. Doesn't mean you need to become like these crazy people out there. It's just you need to understand that when we go up above the clouds, the sun is higher than the clouds. So therefore, the never is there clouds behind the sun. But from your perspective, there could be clouds behind the sun.
Right. I'm more and more convinced all the time that the sun we see is a rendering or a projection or a
reflection.
Reflection, manifestation, whatever. That it's not the physical.
People often say, well, then what about the heat? And I want to have people do this experiment. Get a big mirror, the biggest mirror, like if you had a wall-sized mirror, and if you could put it outside when the sun is off, in the late afternoon to one side of you, and reflect it off the mirror back at you, the heat is exactly the same. I mean, there's no measurable difference. I would like to actually test that with laser thermometers, but it reflects the brightness and the heat just like it's the real thing. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't have any doubt anymore that the sun is a reflection. It clearly is. It's exactly the shape a reflection would be. I've seen before. You take a mirror and shine anything off that mirror. It doesn't matter what shape the mirror is. It could be a triangle or whatever. The reflection that hits the wall is a perfect circle, which is what we see from the sun.
Yes. Yeah. And if speaking in the eyes of a small child, like we mentioned a second ago, Dave did, if you were to reflect that into, say, through a window of a child's room, mm-hmm. and they don't know any better, they're going to look at the light on the wall that appears, that reflection, as a light source. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's what we have done with the sun itself. Like, I'm more and more convinced when it comes to pictures of clouds behind the sun and that sort of thing, that, it is a reflection or a projection. It's what we're seeing, but it's not the physical sun.
No, and I was actually reading some Ptolemy stuff the other day, and he's talking about the image location as a function of the shape of the reflecting surface. And then he goes mm-hmm. into detail about these certain angles that you could be at, and he flat out says that you can have an angle where the item is completely displaced, and it cannot be calculated where it is in reality, because to each person, they're going to see it in a different place. He's describing exactly what we see with the sun. That's why it can't be triangulated.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. pretty crazy.
Hey, what do you say we get to of the few speak pipes?
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea. Well, we got Jaron on the line. He can, since rather than sitting quietly and just listening to our conversation,
I usually
Jaron,
get bored. I just was like, I'm going to speak up this time.
Yeah, right. You can actually help us with these speak pipes here, because we got a few left that we didn't get to last time. And then we'll be caught up after this. All right. So this is going to be from Stephen M.
Hey guys, thank you for all your research and the videos and this podcast. Dave, I used to listen to Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. I actually listened to it for every day while I was at work since the Las Vegas shootings. That's what got me down the conspiracy path. And now I'm already on Flat Earth and I can't get enough of it. So I thought maybe you guys might want to touch on the fact that there is a conspiracy about Hitler traveling to Antarctica and setting up a base there. And that was 10 years before Admiral Byrd went down there. So maybe he knew something, but I don't know. Maybe you guys want to touch on that. Thanks. Bye.
Why does every caller sound exactly like the same person to me?
Well, I tell you what, I was noticing that when I was editing the last show, there was like 3 in a row that sounded exactly the same. I'm like,
they're all
what
well
is going on?
spoken. Their volumes are good. Oh, is it you?
Yeah, it's all Jaron.
I was just testing you guys.
Handkerchief over his phone.
Jaron, you know about the Hitler thing. I mean, I've heard about it. I've never really looked into it, but I heard I was also under the impression that Hitler went to the North Pole several times.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
I don't know if I've heard the North Pole trip, but I think what's hysterical and crazy about all this is that just about any conspiracy you look into, whether it's the UFOs, the Hollow Earth, the Flat Earth, whatever, there's Hitler and Antarctica are always in there.
Hitler's involved in it all. Maybe Eric Dubay is onto something.
Hitler and Antarctica are always in there. Like literally, they say that Hitler knew about the UFOs, and that's why he was testing saucers, and he went down to Antarctica, and the Hollow Earth say that what's his name? Hitler found an entrance down there, and now with the Flat Earth, you're hearing it as well. So I'm not, I don't know, but I think it's really funny that it's at the center or the backstory of all these conspiracies. What do you think, Jaron? You think he figured it out?
No, I don't know. I mean, I see the same thing with Richard Byrd, right? He's in every conspiracy about either the Hollow Earth or the Flat Earth. He's used everywhere. So sometimes when I hear that stuff like that, I get a little bit weary of how much can we actually trust about that person. And then you look into him, and he's part of the Washington Freemason Society. But there's some interesting story about Byrd too. I mean, his son was found dead in a warehouse. That's pretty crazy. So, I mean, there's just interesting stories about all those guys. But as far as Hitler goes...
Nothing curious about that.
No. And it was his family put him on a train to go to his dad's, like some memorial they were going to, give it for his dad. They put him on a train to go there, and he never showed up. And people were looking for him for like weeks, and then they found him dead in like a warehouse where homeless people go.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it does no wonders, doesn't it? But I don't know what that whole, it's hard to find facts when you're looking at stuff like that or Hitler stuff. I mean, you've heard everything, right? That he was, that he faked his death, that he was down in Argentina, that, all those things. So I tend to think that most of it is just embellished stories. I don't think there's anything you can really hold to be true, but it is true that, or at least what I've seen, that the United States did go down there with like a whole military presence and returned real quickly as if they were defeated. So that seemed interesting.
Yeah, and it's also true. It is also true that there is truth to the fact that Hitler was sending tons of people down there.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Submarines, etc. So was it because he found an alien civilization or a flat Earth or a hollow? I don't know, but I do think it's kind of like you, Jaron. I'm kind of like standoffish whenever you can find a piece of evidence like an Admiral Byrd or a Hitler Antarctica situation where it can actually be applied to 3 totally different conspiracies.
Yeah, and then it just gets into how much can I really trust for what I'm reading. Each book is going to have its, it's what it's trying to force or what it's trying to talk about. And so you kind of know ahead of time, okay, well, I know where this is going.
Right.
Have you done much looking into like the Vril Society and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yes, I mean, that's where it gets crazy because, then they're dealing with, this life energy. It does seem that, that Germany had some secrets, be it rocket secrets, be it, lighter than aircraft, or heavier than aircraft or anti-gravity, that kind of stuff. And then when they got defeated, it was basically split between the United States and Russia.
Right.
Now, what happened from there? It's hard to tell. It just clearly, I know that they've hid it from us.
Yeah.
And that's enough for me to know that we're on the right track as far as trying to expose it.
Yeah, and it is same thing as far as the technology goes. You can say the exact same thing with his interest in Antarctica. He was ahead of everyone else as far as the interest in going down there, not just to explore, but to settle. And then after,
and don't they say there's the new Schwabiland or something they call it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And so, yeah, I don't put a lot of faith into it, but, there's something.
There should be enough isn't there enough that we at this point, though, know that the answer is in Antarctica?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so, too.
I do, too. I agree.
I mean, if I heard somebody ask the other day, if you could go north or south, which way would you go? And somebody said north, and I was like, oh, man, I would never choose that. I mean, for me, if I could go either place, I would go south and do some exploring down there. But I just think the answers are all there.
Yeah, south is the first choice, but north is misdescribed. I've talked about it before. We all saw that National Geographic where the guys go and freeze their faces off, and they go, oh, we're there, and it's freezing, and it's dark, and it's 140 below zero with 50-mile-an-hour winds. And basically that was just to tell us you never want to go there. I think there's something more there.
Yeah, I do too. I think I would actually choose north, Jaron.
Think so? Huh?
Yeah, just because we're speaking hypothetically, and I'm like, well, it's so much. If the flat Earth map, not the least, not necessarily. I'm not making any claims here, but just the general flat.
Ooh, he said it's the map.
If the general flat Earth map idea is correct, I just feel like I'd have a better chance of accomplishing said mission by going north because it's so much smaller of an area. I feel like I'd get lost.
So tell me this though. Let's say that you think the Earth is flat and I think it's a ball, and you decide to go up north in your one trip, and you get up there and you see exactly what either would expect, meaning for the globe or the flat Earth, you're going to see the same thing if it's just the North Pole. Like you're going to go up there, you're going to look around, here's the North Pole, the Polaris is above my head. So that's why I don't say the north, because I feel like you could get there and still not have the answer.
Well, I think I'm going to get there and see a big magnetic mountain and that sort of thing. And you're right, I still wouldn't have the answer. Maybe there's no magnetic mountain. Maybe it's just water, as they say, and I wouldn't have the answer. But the south, I would have to go so far. It would take so long, Jaron.
See, I would pick the south, and I would head down through Mexico, and then probably by the time I got to Costa Rica, I'd go, forget it, and I'd stop and just stay there.
Costa Rica's not even...
That's kind of my thing, too.
It's not even like a fifth of the way.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm like, it's far enough.
Following announcement has been paid for by
The Flat Earth Podcast.
Looking for a great Christmas gift idea for friends and loved ones, or just a way to spread the truth about the flat Earth? Head over to theflatearthpodcast.com and click on the link that brings you to the book, The Greatest Lie on Earth, Proof That Our World Is Not a Moving Globe by Edward Henry.
Right on the webpage, we have an image of the book there. If you click it, that'll take you to Amazon, right to the book buying page, and you could buy it there. Also, any other shopping that you're going to be doing this holiday season, if you use that link, Amazon will be forced to give a few % of their profits over to Jaronism so it can help expose NASA and the truth about the flat Earth.
The Flat Earth Podcast.
If you're a fan of the Flat Earth Podcast and you want to help us out, here's something simple you can do. Just find the page for the Flat Earth Podcast on iTunes and leave us a review. You can leave us a star rating and a short comment summarizing why you enjoy the show. And these reviews will help our iTunes review average. So head over to iTunes and leave us a quick review. Tell us why you love the Flat Earth Podcast.
The Flat Earth Podcast.
Well, they do a good job of those videos of making it seem like I don't want to go there because I just see wind and snow and ice shelf and I'm like, well, where's the McDonald's? Where do we eat? Like when we get there,
right?
How do we
Mission
eat?
accomplished.
But Metallica had a concert there, right? Was it Metallica or AC/DC? I forget who it was.
I think people have played tennis there too.
Yes. You know Brooks had a tournament down there.
All right, next speakpipe.
Next up is Dylan.
Hey guys, my name's Dylan Blazak. I recently self-published an ebook called The Physics of White Magic, a Roadmap to the World of the Occult. It covers how aliens exist in a flat earth multiverse, and I thought you'd find it very interesting. I'd really love to be a guest on your show sometime. Keep up the great work, guys. Peace.
All right.
Damn, I usually don't let the peace out at the end because it gives away my identity. But
Yeah, good job, Jaron.
That's our first sponsor.
Yeah, right. So we'll have to check out that ebook, Dylan, and look into that.
he said the flat Earth multiverse.
The flat Earth multiverse and the story of the occult and the flat Earth multiverse.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it sounds like something I'd read.
Yeah, maybe he should send a case to your bookstore and we could distribute them.
There we go.
Yeah. And also you can, Dylan, you can email a PDF over to us. I'd love to check it out.
All right.
Next. Let's check in with Wayne, Jaron's other name here.
Hi, guys. Real quick. My name's Wayne. I live in California. I am a Christian, and I do enjoy your show. Since I became a flat earther the summer of last year, I now understand a lot more things about actually the Bible. You know, God says the earth is fixed and immovable. Joshua stopped the sun, stopped the moon. It's pretty obvious to me about what we're sitting on. Also believe that there's a firmament or a dome above us, and it's probably water, and we can't get through it. Quick question. I was trying to find a video about the green skies people have been seeing all over the world, and I do believe that could be bombs going up to try to break open the firmament. Maybe you guys could talk about that in your show. Great show, and hey, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Wayne, for the compliment and for listening. And I am not familiar with the green skies. Are you guys familiar with that?
Not at all.
I've heard of the green
Flash
when the sun sets.
I've heard of the Green Lantern.
The Green Lantern, yes, of course. Jolly Green Giant comes to mind, but I haven't seen the green skies thing, Wayne. So maybe you could shoot us over a link to a video to get us familiar with that. What did he have another question?
No, I've seen some high altitude blasts go off that look like they're going outwards because they're not hitting something. They're hitting something. You've seen that, right, Jaron?
Yeah, you mean the old time ones?
So there is a barrier that could just be a pressure differential. It could be a dome. I don't know.
Yeah, hard to know.
And I am not a Christian, but I do see a lot of stuff in the Bible that this all does line up with. At least it lines up with this, in my opinion, better than it does with the ball Earth.
Oh yeah, I don't think anybody can deny that.
I'm going to go to the next one here, Jimmy.
What up, guys? This is Jimmy with Flatflix TV. Just want to let you know, plugged you guys into my site. That's flatflix.tv or flatflix.live. I got the podcast all linked up there. You guys do an awesome job. Keep it up. Just love it.
Cool. All right, another plug from Jimmy there. Have you guys seen Flatflix TV? I haven't been there. I'm going to check it out tonight, though.
I just went there right now, and it's got some great videos to start. I see a video by Jaronism, another one by Jaronism.
Boom.
Great site.
Awesome. Yeah, way to get the word out, Jimmy. We got one more here, and I think it's in two parts, but it's not long. It's from Philip, and we'll try to, let's see. Gosh, more are showing up here on the list than were here 5 minutes ago, I swear. All right, let's try Philip's.
Hi, guys. My name is Philip. I'm really interested in your podcast. I really like to listen to it, but I have one question for you. As a scientist, I went to Antarctica for 3 months, and I exhibited the 24-hour sun there, and I'm pretty sure that I was south of Africa. So how can you explain this? It would be really great if you come back to me with this. Take care. I like your podcast.
That was a terrible accent, Jared.
I struggle. You know what else I shouldn't have said there is I shouldn't have said like I think I was, because if I'm going to be a scientist, then I probably know exactly where I was.
Well, I think he was saying tongue in cheek, like I'm pretty sure I was there, where they say I was. But let me hear his 14-second follow up. If this is garbage, we'll edit it out. But one more part.
Hi, first of all, thank you for the reply.
Oh.
However, I cannot listen to it. It's very distorted. Is it possible that you can resend your SpeakPipe? But
So that's one that I did listen to, and I replied to him with a question. I have no idea what that question was. I was in my car. I was like, I got to clarify this. And I think I was asking him, I asked him, where was he exactly? When was he there? Give us more specific information before we could answer the question.
Yeah, and I guess my first question would be, do you recall seeing the sun 24 hours a day, or did you see light for 24 hours a day?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, for the most part, unless we were talking with people that have a meth addiction or something, is nobody's going to be up 24 hours a day watching the sun. So I think when people think that they've seen the sun, they just think, well, it was daylight all day, and I saw the sun going in the sky during the day, and then I went to bed, and when I woke up, there was the sun again. And they think that means it went around, and that's part of the indoctrination. So that's why I think it's so important to get actual camera footage or to get somebody down there who can actually observe it.
Yeah, and I don't just want sunlight. I want the sun.
Absolutely. That's what's important. Right. Yeah. Because we figured out ways that you can do it with the sun quite easily and explainable. But as far as, and I haven't gone down this road to even start considering it yet because I don't think it's the case. But, that's going to send us back to the drawing board. If there is a sun that goes around you, that's tough to explain in a flat earth model.
In fact, when you guys were having your talk the other night, Jaron and Dave, a week or so ago, it started out as the drone presentation, and then you guys were just chatting. I listened to the video of that, and when you guys brought up the dome or no dome type thing discussion, one of the things that I was thinking about was the fact that, when you're looking at it, like I mentioned earlier, with the doctor saying a sneeze, well, it's a symptom of the flu, but it's not the flu. I'm just finding I'm more and more siding with the dome, Jaron, because so many of the symptoms that we're discovering with the little magnifying dome, whatever, it can explain so much. You know what I mean? Like, it's not proof of anything.
But the dome itself. I mean, let's say that instead of that magnifying glass, we just made it a shell. Well, you're going to lose a lot of the properties that make it match our reality. I mean, really, it's because of the glass inside the dome, and that is that's acting as the atmosphere. Right? So what do you mean? What do you mean that what we're seeing with the? Give me one example of something we see that we can attribute to the globe. To the dome. Sorry.
Oh, I got you. Like, for instance, we now know that a glass surface like that, like we use the magnifying dome, can make the stars appear to go the other way. Not saying that that's what's doing it, but we know that it is. In other words, a sore throat could be bronchitis, not necessarily the flu, right? Not as doctors, we're not saying it's bronchitis yet. We're still going down the list. But as we're going down the list, I'm just starting to see more and more things. And then you run into the thing from Boulder University that fired the electrons. You guys remember that story? Is that not ringing a bell? The Boulder University, University of Colorado in Boulder, the scientists announced back in 2014 how they were firing electrons into the sky, and they literally said there was a hard, fast barrier up there that we don't understand.
Oh yeah, I do remember hearing that.
Yeah, I mean, this is straight out of science publications and stuff, and it's just like I say, I don't know what it is, or I don't even like using the word dome because it seems like in the flat Earth world there's such a on one side there's a knee-jerk reaction against it, but I just feel like there is some sort of the sky is the limit, and the limit is curved in shape. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess if you're asking me, do I think that there could be a dome there? The answer is absolutely.
Right.
It's just it comes down to saying that I would want more evidence. I really felt strongly about it when I thought that a rainbow couldn't take place indoors. So when I saw that, then I said, okay, well, then that kind of eliminates one of those things. But I do think there's other things that do tell us that. I mean, is there evidence of things up in the sky that are heavier than, for instance, let me reword that. So it kind of seems like to me you can stack everything on top of each other, right? You've got water and sand and dirt and stuff that's on the ground, and then you've got air, which is next, and then you've got helium up above that, and so isn't it just that everything in the Earth just kind of settles by weight? Now I know the crazy globe heads will come out and say there is no weight, gravity makes weight. Well, if you think about it, I mean, really, everything that weighs more than zero falls down, but then it orders itself after that.
It orders according to density.
Yeah. I mean, according to density, but also according to weight, really, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, it depends on I guess density would be the way to say it, because the weight would depend on the size of the object. So in other words, if you got 4 cubic miles of
okay,
you know what I mean, of nitrogen, it's going to sit below the helium or whatever.
Right. Okay.
And that would be because one is more dense than the other. Right. Therefore, and yes, if it's the same area, then yeah, it would weigh more because of its density. But I know what you're saying. So is there an example of like a more dense sitting above a less dense? Is that what you were going to ask?
Yeah. Is there something like that? Because I'm just wondering if the whole idea of space that we've been taught as a vacuum, couldn't it just be the absence of anything of any density at all? In which case, it's not necessarily a vacuum. It's more just everything weighing anything more than that goes down towards the Earth. And the height, the maximum would be when there is something with no density. And that might be space. That could be I'm just wondering, I'm just thinking in my head right now, just bouncing things off you guys. Because have you heard anybody give it a good explanation for how to explain how a helium balloon rises? I mean, that to me is just proof of gravity right there. It's 2 items of mass. Yeah, you've got the balloon of mass, and you've got the ground, and they should attract each other, and they don't.
Yeah, and their answer to your question would be, they say, well, when you say, well, why does a helium balloon go up? They say, well, obviously it's because the helium is less dense in the air around us. Right, but that doesn't answer. Well, that makes all the sense in the world as far as density goes, and layering things with more dense. But that does not explain why the gravity does not work on it.
Right.
Yeah,
if gravity is the attraction of 2 masses, then both those items have masses. Granted, the mass in the balloon of helium is less than the mass in the balloon of air, but still, it still needs to pull it. It's not negative weight.
Yeah. 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 And then I get, my biggest go-to with all of this is always the atmosphere itself and how it's not sucked off leads me to think that there's some sort of barrier.
Right.
The argument that they have about the helium balloon is that the air is more dense. It's being pulled down harder. So it's being pulled down and pushing the helium up.
Of course.
That makes no sense.
That's their argument. No, it makes perfect sense if you're a baller. Hey,
it doesn't make
sky's
sense.
The limit. Well, if you're a baller, you believe you live on a spinning ball. You have bigger issues,
right?
Than that. The sky is the limit. Who came up with that line?
I don't know. We need to research
because I've been hearing it again and again and again. I'm like, the sky is the limit. Is that like from the Bible?
No, I don't know. We need to look up the history of the sky is the limit.
Hey, I had Jaron. You mentioned your indoor rainbow video, which we talked about on our hangout last week. Do you recall if that light was screwed into a reflector?
It had like a housing. It had like a
Yeah. So hang on. Mm-hmm. I think that housing is a reflector.
Could
like
be
the dome.
Could be.
Let's see it without that and see if you can do it.
But then couldn't we also say then that the filament inside the bulb is just hitting the glass of the bulb? Because the bulb is
anything you want.
Well, I mean, yeah. How do you get to the point where you say what?
I don't know. Like if you took the housing off and the rainbow went away, then we could say it's the housing.
Good point. You would be able to say that.
Yeah. So let's not conclude that. We might have to.
We need more information.
So now, damn it, I got to get a mister for inside my house, a light, tarps, and a small child to turn the water on.
Get a midget. They're easier to talk to.
Get a torch.
It's
get
easier.
a torch.
Yeah. Hey,
a flame.
That's politically incorrect.
I meant a short person.
A little person.
Yeah. Little person.
That's right.
A little person.
Yeah. That's okay.
I was looking it up. I'm trying to find it, but the sky's the limit. It's There's some just.
We'll have to look into that next speak
Next
pipe.
speak pipe, because I really, I think they were being literal when they said that. Damn it. Okay, here we go. All right, let's go to this one from Travis.
Hey guys, I just realized that the government's lying about another thing. I heard on the radio today that today's the shortest day of the year, but yet I checked my phone and my watches and everything, and there's still 24 hours in today. So why are they calling it the shortest day of the year if there's still 24 hours in it? Love the show.
Right in front of our faces. We never even realized that.
Wow. Oh, thank you for bringing that to our attention, Travis. Good one.
That's pretty funny.
Here's this one's from John. Let's see.
Hey, gentlemen. I was just wondering, has anybody figured out what the drop is of the Mississippi River? It's 2,320 miles long in its journey from Minnesota to New Orleans. If you're at the halfway point, Muscatine, Iowa, you're at you're standing on the ball earth now, let's say. On either side, how much is the drop? That's what I want to know. 2,320 miles. This thing's got to be flowing uphill, and that can't happen. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Thanks.
Wow. All right.
This becomes the difficult part, because one of the things they hid from us, and now that we're finding it out, it should be that kind of a light bulb in your head that makes you realize that why they're lying. But they say that everywhere on Earth is level. So when they do that, now that gives them permission to. There's nothing that we can say about the Mississippi River that doesn't work on a ball, because they'll just say, no, every point of the river is level. That's if it's at sea level. And then they say if there's a hill, then it's going to flow downhill. But they can get away with that because they say everywhere on the earth is level as long as it's at sea level.
Right. There's no uphill or downhill in reference to where you are on a sphere, because it's all relative. Every point is the same distance from the center.
Right. Well, as long as you're at sea level, right? I mean, we have to put that.
Yes. And that's where they'll say there's only uphill and downhill according to the terrain, the topography.
Right. What an excuse. I mean, if the earth is flat.
So standing in the middle of the river, the beginning and the end are 170-mile drop from the guy standing in the middle. But all of that is level, except the top of the river is slightly higher and the bottom of the river is slightly lower. And that's what makes it flow on a ball earth, right?
Yeah, because they're basically saying, like Jaron said, if the center of the ball is what's pulling everything to it, then every spot on the sphere is the same. It's the same level. It's always going to be level. Therefore, everything acts as if it's flat.
Hey, Jay, I got a question for you. And Jaron pointed this out to me a couple of years ago. Who gave that molecule in the center of the earth the right to say, I'm the center, all come to me?
And how did he let his buddy Mars do it? You go over there, get away from me, and then you collect people over there. I'll collect things over here. We'll become spheres. I'm going to get a moon. You don't get one. You get two.
Yeah.
Well, no, we're going to give the moon like a fifth of that privilege.
Wait, and you, Jupiter, you're going to be the biggest, but you can't be solid. You have to be gassy.
Right, you're very gassy.
You're very gassy because you're so
big.
You
have like 65 moons
here. Yeah, right. But we're going to give you lots of moons.
And some of them go the other way, because that makes a lot of sense.
Yes. So, serious question when it comes to Jupiter. Now, I'm glad you guys brought this up. At what point did they tell us, like, I swear, when I was a kid growing up, Jupiter was a solid planet?
Definitely, then you're older than me.
Yeah. Dave, what about you?
I always remember it being a gassy on the outside with a solid center, kind of like a lollipop, a Charms lollipop.
Okay, wait, a gaseous center with a solid on the outside?
No. Center. Did I say it backwards? I have a little dyslexia. The center, like if you landed on Jupiter, you'd have to go through this very thick, gassy atmosphere. So I actually remember seeing what a lander on Jupiter would look like, and
yeah, but nowadays don't they say that the whole thing is gas?
I don't know what they say.
That's anymore. Why do people care? It's so funny, right? A gas ball in the sky, and people care.
Well, it's a failed sun. If it was a little bigger, we'd have another sun. It'd be very cool.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it was, if I'm not mistaken, that they say now that Jupiter is just one big gas ball, that there's no solid part. I could be way off, but, and so I was just curious as to when that changed.
So why is it then?
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Well, how would Jupiter not attract physical bodies then? Let's say a moon goes flying by it and it's made of the same thing the moon's made of, whatever. I don't know, whatever people think it's made of. If it went by Jupiter, would Jupiter attract it to itself and then just like obliterate all of the matter and turn it into gas? How the hell does that work?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's got so many moons.
So Earth had to say, "I'm Earth, you're Mars," and then you go out there, you get the gas stuff, send the matter towards us.
It's because of the Lagrange point, Jaron.
Oh yeah, the Lagrange point. I forgot about that.
Right. So to the quick answer on Yahoo Answers, Jupiter is mostly hydrogen, which we call a gas, but under enough pressure, as it is deep into Jupiter, it becomes liquid. Jupiter also has a solid core. Wow. So it's everything. It's the everything planet.
And you better believe it, or else you are a fool.
And it has a storm that hasn't stopped in 100 years.
Right, the red spot. That's basically taking a picture of a piece of marble.
Yeah.
And then
most of Jupiter is liquid metallic hydrogen beneath a layer of liquid molecular hydrogen. Oh
boy.
Yeah. All right, let me go to the next question here before I get silly with that.
Before you get pissed.
Yeah. Damn, triggered me. You triggered me. All right, so this one will be from Dave. We got two more left after this.
Hi, this is Dave from California. Love your guys' show. Listen to it every chance I get. Quick question for you. What do you think the explanation is for meteorites? Do you think it might be pieces of the dome, the firmament breaking off? That's one that's got me perplexed and wonder if you guys had thought about it too. Keep up the good work, guys. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Dave. We have definitely thought about that. As in fact, we answered that on the last one, and I'll repeat my answer. I'll repeat my answer once again this week when someone else asked about shooting stars, and I said, I have no clue. Jaron, do you have any idea what shooting stars or meteorites are?
I would say I have no clue. I would say that Carly Sunshine did a video one day where she was sitting inside of her car, and it was raining, and she was showing these drips coming down the her windshield, and I thought that was pretty incredible. It looked amazing, a lot like shooting stars or meteors. Yeah, and I don't know. You know, I've often thought before that to find out that they're basically balls of ice, right? They're frozen balls of ice. I've just thought, could they be coming from the outer ice lands? Not Iceland, but actually Antarctica. I don't know how they'd be getting airborne or any of that, but I mean, it could be like I don't know. What if there's a volcano that's further out, and I don't know. But as far as
you're saying Hitler's throwing snowballs at us.
He's got a catapult, right. And after his tennis match, shooting is over.
Right. What about Jaron? What about the ones that we see? The big things that come down in Russia and blow out windows and stuff. They always come down in remote areas. What do you think those are?
I would say those are man-made, but I don't know what they are.
Yeah, like a military weapon to simulate, hey, this is a rock coming into our planet. Thank God, it broke up. To me, I think it's a military weapon to induce fear, because they happen a whole bunch have happened, but they always happened in remote areas.
Yeah, I think it's a twofold deal. I don't think necessarily it's a project they did to stir up fear. I think it's some sort of military testing, and then when it hits down, they go, "It was meteorite," and which covers their ass on the military testing and promotes a little bit of fear of the actual meteorites.
There you go.
I don't know, man. But I'm like you guys, man. When I saw that windshield video that Carly did, that blew my mind, because it's literally, if listeners, if you haven't seen it, you need to look it up and check it out, because it's one of those things that you've literally seen a million times in your life right in front of you. Just simple raindrops, or I should say the buildup of the water on the windshield and it's sliding down. We've all seen it a million times, but when you see it in comparison to what we see when meteors go down. It's staggeringly similar. I'll say that. This is Schaefer, I believe, or Schaffer.
I just wanted to say that I'm by no means a pilot or anything, but my boss owns a plane, and I have flown it across my state of Washington State, and I never once had to account for the curvature of the Earth. Just thought I'd point that one out there for you, boys.
All right.
Well,
not a pilot,
but I've flown a plane across the state. Well,
wow.
You're a pilot. Hate to tell you.
We won't tell your boss, sir.
I'm not a driver of my car, but the other day I was driving and took a right turn.
But yes, he doesn't have to adjust for curvature because there is none.
Because there is none, right? And we've all read and heard the comments from the Globe side on this, and it's just literal. It's magic. The plane does it, the gravity does it.
I was talking to a friend who was heading to Chile, and I was talking flat Earth, and they're like, "That's crazy. How would a plane fly to Chile if the Earth was flat?" I'm like, well, it would go up, it would aim at Chile, it would fly across, and then it would land, rather than diving over a ball and landing upside down.
Right. You're just thinking way too out of the box there, Dave.
And yeah, their comment essentially was that makes sense.
Yeah, that's ludicrous.
Okay. That's ludicrous.
The ball spinning through space is where that's smart.
Yeah,
intellectual.
I mean, even if the ball wasn't spinning, it's ludicrous, but it's spinning and flying through space.
Yeah. All right, last one here, Mr. Matty Moses.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Mr. Matty Moses. I love the show. I just had a question, and it has to deal with the heliocentric model and the geocentric model, but specifically bulb believers saying that the moon is reflecting light coming from the sun, but just wondering how they can predict when we're going to have blood moon, harvest moons, things like that, how they explain that with that model, and I guess how it also pertains to the flat Earth model. All right, thanks, guys. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, good question, Mr. Matty Moses. All right, so the blood moons and all of that. Jaron, do you know what the heliocentric scientific explanation is as far as how they predict that?
I do not. I mean, I don't. All their predictions were able to be predicted before the heliocentric model, so they're not necessarily heliocentric.
Jaron, what is it? I'm a little confused on how NASA predicts eclipses. Somebody was saying that they use one guy.
Yes, I said that on this show.
and that guy was predicting eclipses before we knew that the Earth was round?
No.
What's the story with that?
But I mean, it does say the guy's name is Fred Aspernack.
Yeah, it's all attributed to him.
Yep, and even on...
And who is Fred Aspernack? Is he a tennis player?
He's a private, yes.
Believes in the hollow earth. And
he's Brooks Agnew's rival. But seriously, no. He's even on timeanddate.com and that sort of thing. It'll say all data is exclusively, or solely responsible for this data is Frank such and such. Like, it's one guy attributed to this.
Which makes no sense. I mean, really, when you think about it, I mean, for NASA to say, we're not responsible for this, it's this other guy, is just ridiculous because they're just simple mathematics should be able to figure it out to the point where they don't need to blame some guy.
That exactly.
Is it their way of, how they kind of tell us the truth, and if they told us how they're predicting eclipses based on heliocentrism, that's a lie. So they're laying it off. They're getting it from another guy, and that's deniability.
You want to hear what's crazy too is the guy got his information, or I know he got his degree when he worked at a planetarium.
Yeah,
and a planetarium is a flat, obviously, area that then you've got the sky above it being portrayed as the Earth's sky, but a planetarium is not a model of a ball.
No, and he, gosh, I can't remember the name of the word. It was in the group out of the Philippines that did the experiments, and they were looking into the solar eclipse stuff about a month or so ago, Jaron. They mentioned the fact they talk in that video about how they predict how they predict the eclipses, and they talk about it's attributed to this one guy and how they use the method of such and such, which I can't think of right now. But that method was around prior to the Copernican model.
The Soros cycle?
Is that it? The Soros cycle? Yeah, it was an S word.
Not sure if that's what you're talking about, but yeah, that could be.
Yeah,
I don't know if that was around since. You said it was before.
Yeah, I think it was
heliocentric model.
I think the Soros cycle had actually been around. I think, if I'm not mistaken, since the astrolabes.
I don't know. Oh yeah, here it says. I looked it up. It says the earliest discovered historical record of what is now known as the Soros is the Chaldean Neo-Babylonian astronomers in the last several centuries BC.
That's it.
So yeah.
So in other words,
that's something I've been looking into a lot lately. You're right. That is a great thing for people to investigate, because the fact that you've got these people that are doing all this astronomical work, but they back in those days didn't have the same beliefs. So why are we now considering those things heliocentric, calculations? They're not.
Yeah. I was reading through a thread months ago on one of these Facebook posts about flat Earth, and this one guy just kept, no matter what the points were, no matter what they explained on there, this one guy just kept going back to, yeah, but how are we predicting eclipses and, such and such. And finally, some guy just posted a picture of an astrolabe.
Here's the thing. I just read right now. It says that the Soros cycle comes from the Antikythera mechanism. How about that?
Wow.
The Antikythera mechanism is that one from, it's an ancient Greek, what they call an analog computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy, because that means it basically came from, I'll have to look into it a little bit, but it would be a flat Earth idea or belief. I've often looked.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, and so if the one guy that NASA uses, and everyone uses, the whole Earth basically, when we're able to predict an eclipse, if it's all going back to this one guy who's using an ancient method, right?
Right.
You know why NASA uses him?
Good call. You just named it. You already named it.
The reason NASA uses him is because he's pretty smart, and NASA's a bunch of idiots.
Yeah. And I was about to say, that's what I was going at. What does it say about NASA that they're going to use this guy and the ancient, pre-Copernican method, and yet they won't use their own supercomputers? Like Jaron said,
right.
You should be able to plug in, here we are now, here's the rotation, we know the speeds, we know the distances, we know what everything's doing, and the computer should be able to spit out, okay, solar eclipse on this date, lunar on this date, boom, right?
So it must not be able to.
But yet they can't, because they use this one guy in this ancient method. Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Just with our heliocentric solar system, with all of the alignments of the planets, all of these gravities affect each other. It would change every day. The moon would be yanked out of our orbit. It would slow down. There's no way that anything would ever be the same, but it's exactly the same.
You mean, what's the same? You mean the
like don't the eclipses come on an 18-year cycle?
I don't know, because we got another one coming.
It's more
up.
than that, but
yeah.
Oh, whatever. But just the Earth's orbit. It's the exact thing every year, and it brings us right back to where we were. The stars all line up, but everything is pulling on everything. There's no way that it could work.
Right, but we don't have PhDs. We wouldn't understand. We don't know the maths like they do.
Yeah.
We don't know the maths.
All right, so that is the last of our speak pipes. I believe we are officially all caught up. Speak pipe is a wonderful thing. And
Dave, I want to go back and say, I'm sorry, you're right. It is the Soros cycle is 18 years, 6 months.
Is that what it is?
Thank you.
Okay, so Jaron, on that note, why are we having another one in 2021 or whatever it is?
Oh, no, the cycle.
Oh, solar cycle. I'm sorry. I thought you meant the solar eclipse cycle.
So every 18 years and 60 months, they repeat in the exact same order that they happened before, with the exact same amount in between them.
Right.
Correct. It's like a group of eclipses of a certain number of each one.
Proves right there that we're not spinning and flying through space.
Yeah, we just obviously don't understand maths.
No.
Yeah, we better leave
Are
it
you
at
a scientist,
that.
Dave?
And,
hello.
I only have no letters after my name or before my name.
ASS, I thought. No?
ASS? Nice.
Yeah.
I thought that was no.
And guys, you need to check out too, just to bring this thing full circle. Jaron at the very beginning mentioned, name dropped JBL early on, which went right over Dave's head, but that was a reference to a wrestler. And speaking of, you got to check out Talk is Jericho on an upcoming episode that features Dave on there. I am really looking forward to hearing that interview.
I know, me too. I had to give him some wrestling hints, some things to say to Jericho.
I used your line at the end. It was fantastic.
Did he love it? What did you say?
He loved. I said, at the end, and he was very. I said on the last show that he was very receptive. He was a great conversation. He asked good questions and he listened to the answers. It was one of the better, more respectful conversations I had. But at the end, I said, remember, Flat Earth is Jericho.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, good tip on that one, Jaron.
I've had to help him out a few times. Yes,
I had no idea what that meant until Jaron told me beforehand.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for that, for the Talk is Jericho podcast and a lot more. And we'll be back in a week or so to talk more Flat Earth. And anytime you're listening in, and you want to pop in, don't be so silent, dude.
I'll probably be quiet in the next couple of weeks just because let's see how you guys do on your own.
Right.
Are you going to pop in on Glowbusters this week, or are you going to let the boys handle it?
I'm always there, so you never know. I'll just pop in if I need to.
Yeah. So and everyone else out there doing Flat Earth videos and broadcasts, look out.
You never know.
Maybe I'll pop in and just do a random plug for the podcast.
You should do that.
Well, I'm there, always listening.
All right, so we'll wrap it up here, folks, and be back soon. Had an extra long session with our special guest, Jaron from Jaronism. If you haven't checked out his channel, go check it out. Dave and I are always talking about it. And that's about it. Anything else, guys?
Check out our Facebook page, The Flat Earth Podcast. Lots of good stuff there. Bring your friends and family there. Just say, hey, check this out. Send them a video link. We have a lot of embedded videos, from the Potter's Clay, from other great video makers, from Jaronism. Send them the link from that page so when they look at it, they'll be like, hey, what's next? And they'll go to the page. Not that we want them at the page. We want them to wake up to the flat Earth. So I'm also working on a playlist. What do you think about this idea? My favorite video, one of my favorites, is ODD's Flat Earth 21 questions. So the playlist will start with that video, and then there'll be 24 more videos, full-length videos, specific to each question. Or 21 videos. So he touches them all for 2 or 3 minutes in that video, and then you just go through the playlist, and question 1 is answered in a video by Jaronism, by whoever did the best video on that topic. I'm going to put them into a playlist. So the playlist will be a lengthy playlist. It'll take you a day or two to watch it, but I think that if somebody's really interested in flat Earth and they want to could be brought up to speed as fast as possible, it might be a great way.
Yeah, I agree. Because as we all know, since the three of us have gotten into it at various points, the number of videos now compared to when we got into it, it's so much more. So just imagine getting into it for the first time and wanting to know more and wanting to learn more.
And we all know how willing a baller is to watch 26 hours of video.
Yeah.
On the flat Earth.
They love that.
Yeah. Hey, I'll watch 26 hours of video.
Right. Cool deal. All right. Yeah. Good stuff. Dave, Jaron, anything you want to plug before we roll?
Nothing at all. Jaronism.com. And this wonderful podcast as well.
All right, everybody. See you next week. If Jay shows up.
Damn it.